Spring is upon us, and of course, that's the time for seasonal allergies, something I've suffered with for, oh God, 30 plus. I have discovered two great steps to get rid of seasonal allergies. I am really surprised at how well these two steps worked, and I wanted to share them. So just in case you have seasonal allergies, you maybe can get rid of them as quickly as I do. I believe it's 7 steps to healing. And I'll go over those with you. You might see me reading a bit, but anyhow, the first step is to take responsibility for what you're feeling and about the allergies. So this means if you take responsibility for it and you're not blaming or, moving away from it, then it's easier for you to have a miraculous experience because you're right here, right now with the allergies and you're not pointing them elsewhere or blaming anyone else or any other situation. Feel the feeling you have when you have these allergies. For me, it was kind of easy. There were two sets of feelings. There were the actual physical itchy eyes, runny red nose, oh my God, sneezing, coughing, and sometimes stuffiness and inability to sleep. And then the second thing away from me, I was never without a box of Kleenex, that's for sure. Now, the third step is I want you to close your eyes and ask yourself, what am I feeling here? I sort of felt powerless to do anything. I felt like I was a victim for running into these allergies that happened for me in the spring and summertime. So what are you feeling here? Okay, so I want you to express to yourself what happened to cause you to begin to have seasonal allergies. Can you go back? Can you remember those times when seasonal allergies began? I was fortunate. I couldn't pinpoint it, but I had a pretty clear idea of when they began. And for me, it was a time when my mom was beginning to get seriously ill. And my dad was starting to have drinking problems, or to stop my dad from drinking. So that was my story, and I expressed it out loud to myself. I went into a little more detail, and you may do the same. And then the second thing you do is you pretend people in the situation. There may only be one, or there may be two, like in mine. And so you pretend to be them. So I pretended to be my mom. And I realized that she must have felt weak, tired, an inability to be her old fun self. She was slow to want to start things. She certainly didn't want to spend time with me. She must have felt sad that she didn't feel well, and she also must have felt powerless in her situation. And then there was my dad, so that was my mom's side of the story. Then I pretended to be my dad, and I realized my dad knew that my mom had cancer. It was back in the day when you didn't tell people they had a death sentence of cancer, and so he held that inside of him. And I think he began, and my pretend story for him was he began to realize that there was going to be a huge empty hole in his life when my mom died, and he didn't know how to fill it, and it was painful. It was being wrenched out from under him. And I think he chose drinking involved in this. And then the next thing you do is you pretend you're a reporter, say for the Washington Post, and you're going to look at it from a neutral perspective of each person playing in this event for the beginning of allergies for me. And so the story coming from reporter goes like this. There's a young girl. She's feeling powerless and she really feels powerless because her mom doesn't feel well. She doesn't know if she's going to get better. She doesn't know what's wrong, and she can't seem to help her mom to feel better either. So there I was, totally. There are two people totally powerless to do something, and a third person taking the power to do something that's really going to negatively affect everybody. Do this, you begin to release the hold that the emotion, for me, which is powerlessness, held on you. And honestly, it really does. It's not an earth-shaking moment, but it really releases that sense of powerlessness. The next thing you do is you share this. This is, I think, step 5. You share this complete story, as I just shared with you, to a person you trust and you know will be okay with you telling them the story. And I shared this with my partner, and he was fine with it. In fact, he learned something about me he never knew. That was a plus on the side. And then once you do this, you release this whole story of this emotion in a ritual form. Now, I wrote it down briefly on a piece of paper. I folded it up, and I actually burned it in the fireplace. And there's certainly other ritual things that you can do if you don't want to burn it in the fireplace. Some people write it down, bury it outside. My daughter did this, and she put it in a bubble in the air and burst it in there, and that was a ritual as well. And then once you do that, you celebrate that you did it. So celebrate yourself for loving yourself enough to discover the emotion and to work through releasing it so it is no longer in your system causing dis-ease. Okay, now the second step was really fun. I knew that if I had an emotion, that probably the best way to release it would be through the modality of EFT tapping. I happen to really enjoy tapping, and it really has helped me. So I thought, okay, tapping. So I started researching all the different tapping scripts and things that were on the web, on internet, and I even read some. And I came up with 2 that I tried, and I tried them, of course, in between the sneezing, sniffling, and everything else. And I had 2 that were very effective, very effective. The first one was Julie Schiffman's Tapping for Allergies. And her approach is that allergies come from your immune system sort of going haywire and thinking that pollen is dangerous to your health. Something to think about. And for me, what really clicked with me is the fact that, why yesterday when I took a hike, because I love to hike out in nature, did nothing bother me. I was breathing and everything. And then one day later, all of a sudden, pollen is really affecting me, and I'm sneezing and I'm uncomfortable, and oh God, having to carry Kleenex on a hike. Oh, geez. So anyway, I said to myself, why one day okay, the next day not? She brings that up, and she feels that your body is out of balance and you're not adapting to things in your life that are uncomfortable or seemingly irritating. And she taps through that, and I enjoyed it. And you know what? It really relieves some of the symptoms. They didn't go away, but it really relieved them. Then I went to an all-time favorite of mine, Nick Ortner, and he is, through the permission of Hay House, using Louise Hay's affirmations for allergies and her whole approach to allergies. And you know what? I did that tapping, and I feel wild telling you this, but I did the tapping, and within 3 days of that particular tapping and using it, my allergies were gone. And I noticed some really interesting things. Now, I've been working on trying to get rid of my allergies for several years now. So I'm really aware that even a word or sentence can start me to feel like I've got an allergy coming on. Someone can sit in a room and describe springtime to me, and I start to itch. My nose starts to itch. Funny, but I began to realize those things and knew they were cues, and knew that my body was sort of taking over for my mind. Just certain things would start stimulating the sneezing, the allergies, and it wasn't even springtime. Sometimes I'd watch a commercial on TV and start feeling allergies coming on. Anyway, humorous. So I was that familiar with allergies and how they started. But when I felt any of these words or things that were igniting allergies for me, I would stop immediately and start this tapping. And even the pollen coming in, as soon as that would happen or I would sense that, I would stop what I was doing and do this tapping. And in about 3 days, I had no more allergies, no more symptoms. And I feel great. I feel great. And it set me on a trail of looking at the sense of powerlessness I've had over the course of my life. Now, I am thrilled with this tapping, and I want to give Nick Ortner and Louise Hay all the credit in the world for it. But I do want to share it with you now. I've adjusted it to me, but you can adjust it to you, because that's what tapping is all about, is taking a sort of skeleton and using it to your feelings and your emotions. So I'm sort of going to go road on you with this, but just follow me, tap along with me, and let's see what happens. And I'll also include this script on the website, so you can read it and do it if you want to. Okay, so the first thing I want you to do is I want you to, of course, please check with a physician about seasonal allergies first. This is just an adjunct to your doctor's care. Personally, I got tired of taking Benadryl and Claritin. So I want you to realize that you and I are just 2 of 50 million people who are affected by seasonal allergies. So you're not alone, okay? And I already went over how they happen with the immune system reacting to defend itself from something that you wonder, why do you need to defend yourself from? Pollen. I don't know. So you also have to become aware that these symptoms are taking you to something deeper in your life. And I chose to look at the emotional side of it, as I've already mentioned. And I also mentioned EFT, I felt was the best modality. And I went over the whole thing with you. So let's just start. So I want you to take a few minutes to be curious about how allergies came into your life. Can you remember? And what is your body trying to tell you about these allergies? And why is it reacting so dramatically to pollen and other environmental elements? And these are part of everyday nature. You probably love nature, so why? Okay, take a few moments for that. And then I want you to sort of contemplate Louise Hay's affirmation, because it's pretty important. And that is, the world is a safe and friendly place. I am safe and at peace in my life. So keep that affirmation in mind. So take another moment and see if there is any area of your life you feel powerless to affect right now. And then that makes you feel unsafe and shut down. So think of that. And so when you think of and feel these seasonal allergies, what's the strongest emotion that comes up for you? For me, it was frustration. It was powerlessness. For some people, you feel blocked. So I want you to take a moment to tune into these emotions or the tension that you are feeling around experiencing seasonal allergies, and rate that intensity on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the most intensive. Now, I want you to remember to take full responsibility for your own well-being through this. Okay, tapping on the side of your hand, repeat after me. Even though the sneezing, runny nose, and itchy eyes are awful, they may be telling me something about my life. And I deeply love and accept myself. Okay, so tapping. Oh, shoot. Oh, man.